Wi-Fi cut out, and then you send the video of you ending it, and you it's just so funny, like the struggle that like content creators go through when like just saying 2 lines.
Yeah.
You're just like, all right, guys, so this no, let's try this again. it's like the mind F that we go through. It's just so funny to see other people do it. You know, it's just like it's so enjoyable.
Why was my blooper in there or something?
You had
you
had the whole shot. So it was you shooting it, and you're like,
oh, the raw was in there. I'm like, wait, didn't I just? Okay, yeah, I'm just like,
yeah. There's just definitely been times when I'm shooting content, and right now I'm working on the ground, right? Because I'm kind of strayed away from shooting content at work. It's just less of a distraction. It's allowing me to work better at work and not like, oh, I need to shoot that. Oh, I need to shoot that. I need to shoot that. You know, all this stuff. So I'm shooting stuff here, but I have one, you know, makeshift bench, which is a build that's been going on forever. I'm on the ground, so I don't have a stand for my camera on the ground. So everything I'm doing, I'm like, so this,
yeah.
Oh man, and I'm just like, screw this, you know, like screw all of this. This is stupid.
Yeah.
But I need to get a lift and all that stuff. So, do you feel like you prepare a bunch before you shoot it, or you're just like, this would be a good video, I'm just gonna shoot it, and then you're like, afterwards, like, I probably should have added 4 more things into there.
Yeah, but if you have that mentality, you'll never release a damn video.
Welcome to my life.
And you know, I work as an engineer, and I see it with, like, at some point you just have to get something out there and let it break and do it over, you know, and fix it, you know. So
dude, that's such good life advice, dude. That's why you're a father of 5.
No, just 4.
4. We have a dog.
And a bunch of chickens.
Okay.
And a turtle that we lost twice. And we found it twice. Can you believe that?
Unbelievable.
Like this little turtle.
A turtle. Dude. World class. Father of the year.
Yeah. All right.
All right, let it rip.
All right, what's up, puppy?
Yep.
Oh, that's a good one. What's up, guys? This is the Broken Moto Show with Matt and Cody, and we're here to answer questions that you submit. Tech questions. Yeah. So, Cody, how do these people submit their questions, and what do they need to include?
They can email us at askbrokenmoto@gmail.com.
That's right.
We're looking for questions about your motorcycle, issues that you've had. What we need is just good information. We don't need a page of information or 3 pages, just good information. What your cat had for dinner that night is not really helpful. So just information about what you've done to the bike, or how long it sat for, miles, what type of bike, your make and model, obviously. A video. I mean, I'll do like the demonstration like Matt does. You have a cell phone, you can record a video and then send it to us, and that's super helpful. Pictures, video, try to be a clear explanation. We found that it's not really useful to record your talking with the bike running. They can't hear you. But that's super helpful. That helps us dial in on the questions.
Good explanation, buddy. All right, you want to grab the first one, or should I?
I'll grab it. I think you grabbed the first one in the last episode. So, wait, I don't know. Who knows? It doesn't matter.
Go for it.
Honda CB750F. This is the oldie, 1976, and it's titled "Bit of Gas in the Airbox." Michael from Amsterdam. Dude, another guy over the pond. We're crushing it over there. We're crushing it, Matt. My bike, which is completely stock with the original exhaust. That's awesome. Kind of a rare exhaust to keep in stock. The bike has been restored and the carbs were cleaned. We don't know how long ago. New jets, floats, float needle were put in, but I didn't change the needle in the throttle valve. So I think he's talking about the slide. Timing done correctly, valves, etc. It is running slightly rich as the spark plugs look. We'll put some pictures of the spark plugs that he took pictures of. Pictures are from Sparkplug 1, different sides. I think 1 and 4 maybe. It also looks like the spark plug is sorry. It also looks like the spark plug is correct on one side, but not on the other. I went to check the float levels to see if those were off, maybe causing a slightly rich condition. Maybe, could be. That's a great guess, Michael. Levels were off like maybe 1 to 2 millimeters, not a lot. It's probably not the cause. Set all the levels correct. Then I also checked out what position the needles were set. So I think he's talking about the slide needles. Everything was stock jets, airbox, etc. So therefore, I wanted to check if the needles were also at the correct second position. And it turned out to be, I'm sorry, dude. I'm struggling with this email because it's not the best of English. So bear with me, guys.
Yeah. Because that turned, it looks like turd.
Yeah, it looks exactly like turd. So I'm autocorrecting in my brain. Like,
yeah, no, it's all right.
And it turned out to be in the correct positions. So far, I don't know what could be causing the slightly rich condition. I also read that a lot of these bikes are slightly rich at idle, which can foul the spark plugs a bit. The bike also feels good as far as I know, so maybe I was making a problem out of nothing. But during takeoff of the carbs, I found out that there was a bit of gas in the airbox. Not liters or anything, but a layer for sure of gas inside the airbox. Now I'm wondering what could cause the gas in the airbox. The drain tubes on the carbs are new and are not clogged. The air filter itself looks completely clean and could be quite old as it was still in the bike, I guess, when he got it. I wonder how the fuel gets into the airbox, which is the inlet side of the carbs. Hope you guys have some ideas. Yeah. That's it. Michael from Amsterdam. So
what do you got?
Okay, so
the spark plugs that he sent, the picture, he flipped it 180, both sides of it was the number one plug, both sides.
What do you mean?
Not 1 and 4.
Oh,
it was the same
okay,
plug.
Gotcha,
He just rotated it 180 and took another picture of it. Just to clarify on that. And it was pig rich. It was black and it was wet.
Very rich.
Yeah.
Oh, this beer is disgusting.
Which one's that?
My wife got it.
Oh,
we put that little like mix sixer, you know?
Yeah.
Tiki Escape IPA from Stone. Tastes like, I don't know. Tastes like trash.
Did I just see like almost 8% on that one or something?
It's a 7.
7 and something. Oh man.
But it does not taste very good. So we'll be buying that one again.
Some of those are just darn right nasty. I can't even finish one of them, man.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very dry. All right. So 550F. So these carbs are way over engineered. They are the coolest, badass looking carbs I've seen that Honda came out with, but they are just extremely over engineered. So the thing about old bikes, I'm not going to go on a rant, I promise. The thing about old bikes is that everything has to be in line. Like everything has to be. It's not like newer bikes or even newer style carbureted bikes where it's like, oh yeah, just back the auto mixture screws out. No, the points have to be right. Which he said he checked. You know, the coils have to be somewhat decent. The spark plugs have to be screwed into the cap all the way. And, you know, the right spark plugs, the right valve timing, the right carb adjustment, the right gas, and make sure that you're not like in a hot area or in a cold area and then things change. So they're very temperamental, but he's definitely running rich.
Right.
Okay. And then like an episode ago or 2 episodes ago, I mentioned like just the way that these carbs wear out, metal changes, they get deteriorated, they get eaten up, and you run into those type of problems. No, the bikes, I wouldn't say the bikes did not run rich out of the box. I think that's a little bit of some internet history that he might have heard, because they were very adjustable back then. You know, before it left the showroom with a good technician, it would be running.
Yeah, I think that era, the 70s, they were jetted pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have to mess with them much.
Yeah.
Unless you start changing exhaust and pods and all that stuff. But I got a question. So he was clean, new jets, floats, float needles. So he replaced all that, but what brand did he use? Now Honda, one needle valve from Honda is $30.
Yeah.
Times 4. Okay. So you're at $120 just in one part for all 4 carbs. So I know a lot of people don't want to spend that money. So they go to other stores and they are way less, like way less. Like
like $7.99. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of those parts, the quality is hit or miss big time.
Yeah.
And so let's say you bought these $7.99 special float needles and it's acting fine in several carbs, but in that one carb, all of a sudden it's leaking or doing whatever.
Right.
That could be an issue. So I just want to mention that. I don't know what parts were in here, but the float level could be high in number 1.
Well, he said that it was like 1 or 2 millimeters off.
Yeah. But then again, he's not leaking from the overflow.
Right.
So it
could be seeping by.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's the thing, dude. Like, then you hit the nail on the head with that. I mean, people don't want to spend that money. Right.
Right.
I would go a step further to say that it may not be the parts that you're dealing with, but it may be like the actual bodies of the carbs. So one thing you can look at is the seat itself. I'm pretty sure they're not removable in those. I mean, take a magnifying glass and blow up that seat, because that seat's chewed up. You can put a brand new $35 one in there. It's going to be junk, So
the seat comes out.
It does come out. Okay, cool.
Yes, it's a 10 mil hex.
Yep. Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's still something worth checking.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you got a video on float level check.
Mm-hmm.
I have a video on float pressure test. What I do is I like to shoot in like 1 to 3 psi with the floats closed and make sure they're sealing.
With just air?
Yeah. Just.
Oh, cool. All right.
You could also do vacuum.
Yeah.
You can do all kinds of things, but it just to before you put it all back together.
I'm trying.
Before you put everything back together on the bike, I like to bench test as much as possible, so I don't like have to take them apart again.
So he's too rich at idle, or he's too rich. He's way too rich.
Yeah,
plugs are looking real ugly. So
I don't know if all 4.
Yeah, I don't know.
Are looking ugly. But one thing you could also look at is the carb sync.
Mm-hmm.
Those are mechanical slide carbs. They're individually adjustable.
Very adjustable.
And if you're way down, I think if you're way down on one, you're going to be really sucking in a lot of fuel.
Yeah.
Or up. I'm not sure. But if you're off, it's just not going to be running right?
Yeah, and those are probably the hardest ones to sync, in my opinion.
Absolutely, man.
Because they got like the metal brackets that are holding on to the arms, and the arms have like a rubber like flex.
Yep.
Oh, dude.
And then
over-engineered.
Yeah, and then you tighten it down and it
changes.
It changes.
Yep. So you're like offsetting your carb sync to make it line up.
I mean, this thing is your best chance.
I'm the same one. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, carb sync can play a big role. He also needs to check compression.
Yep.
See, look at the health of the motor that you're dealing with. See how close it is to spec. Because if you're dealing with a dud, then you're going to be fighting this the whole time.
So I got a ton of 550 videos.
Oh, fantastic!
I have a 550 compression test video that runs into a leak down test because of low compression. And then I have a 550 top end rebuild, bottom end rebuild. I have the carb rebuilds. I got a ton of content on the 550.
Yeah. Killer.
So that'll help you out, Michael, if you're interested.
Yeah, we'll put it in the description below. You may be able to access all that stuff.
Yep.
Or get to it.
Now,
or whatever.
It's funny how you mentioned keister, because I buy keister kits because I feel they are. I mean, if you can't get OEM,
Yeah.
I think they are the next best jetting kit or carb kits
Yep.
available.
I agree with
mean,
that.
Yeah, I haven't had any issues.
I mean, we're
with
talking
them.
about back in the 70s when Geo
Oh.
1000s were brand new out of the box
Okay.
and Keister was around.
Okay.
My boss dealt with problems with them. I wasn't trying to bash them at all. I've used Keister sets and a lot of different stuff. I also liked the K&L sets,
Yeah.
if possible. And some guys, you know, if you look hard enough, someone's making like some really top-notch stuff to rebuild carbs with that are like CB750c loveofmylife.com, and it's like they're making like quality stuff. You know, you just never know. But Keister is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not bashing them at all.
Okay. Especially if you need the emulsion tubes. That's like the only way you can replace them with a new.
That's a hard part to find. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if those things are smoked, like you did in the last episode, where they're all eroded. I think to wrap it up, Michael, start with a compression test.
Yeah.
It looks like you did the timing correctly, so that's good. And then move on to the carbs. Just go through it all, clean it, sync it, make sure you have good quality parts in there.
Yep.
And I think
and your mixtures. I mean, like this is like Pandora's box, dude. Like mixture screws, who knows what they're set at? They might be set close to spec. And if you do all of that, Michael, is that his name, Michael? If you do all of that and none of that works, dude, just drop the AutoJet to like a 38 or a 6 or like a 36. Just try it. Just like that's at some point you gotta start trying some stuff out. If the compression's good, everything else is good. Start dropping the jets down and see if that doesn't solve the problem, and practice working on the mixture screws. So I'm gonna pause this here, and we would like to stop and thank all the people who have donated to our beer fund, because you guys are champions, and it shows that you guys do value what the time we put into this and answer questions. And I'm very thankful. I know Matt is very thankful as well. I remember the first night that we launched it, I was blown away sitting on my couch. I'm like, babe, people are actually donating to this thing. This is awesome, you know, just for us spending the time. So we really appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you. It definitely gives us a few beers for the next few episodes, and that's all we need to answer questions. I'm happy with that, man. So
yeah, super cool.
Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, bro. So you have a banger of a next one. So,
all right. Next question. Hi, guys. Thanks for doing all these great videos. I am doing a valve adjustment on an 82 Honda CB750c Nighthawk. This is a 4-cylinder, 16-valve dual overhead cam. Alignment markings on the camshaft were not what was shown in the service manuals. Instead of the notch, there were 2 machined radial grooves and a paint dab. Using the ignition timing marks and watching the cams turn over, I figured out that one of the marks was probably the one to use. I decided that as a double check, I would take the measurements 2 ways. Measure all 4 valve clearances on each cylinder one at a time at TDCC. Or number 2, do it how the manual says. Jack the camshaft into position based on the camshaft markings, then do exhaust 1, 3, go 90, do intake 1 and 3. Basically, the manual sets you up to rotate a full 360 and you hit all the valves.
Yeah.
So that's what he's describing there. Results were inconsistent between the 2 methods on the exhaust side. 2 valves were too tight and one was at the lower limit. No surprise there. Results were not consistent. I'm going to try to paraphrase this. With the manual's method, all intake valves are in spec.
So, time out. So, with the first, which one says that all the valves are in spec? He said to the manuals.
The results were consistent between the 2 methods on the exhaust side.
Okay. And those were in spec, is what he said. Or did he first say that they were tight? Sorry.
2 valves were too tight and one was at the lower limit.
Okay.
So I think it's just I guess he doesn't have the cam in the right position between these 2 methods.
Okay.
Is what I'm guessing, because the only way
he's just comparing 2 different styles of attempting the valve adjustment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And then he got different results.
Right.
Okay. Sorry.
But then what it's leading him to is there something up with the camshaft? Should he measure it with a dial gauge on some V blocks? I thought that the cams, they were concentric. Maybe not. Is this a manufacturing variation? Does it matter? Chris P. from Swansea, Massachusetts. Okay, well, let's back up. Like, first he mentions a paint dab. Motorcycles never use a paint dab as some kind of indication for timing.
No, it's just like okay, that's installed.
Yeah.
In the factory.
Because guess what? What's going to happen to that paint over the years?
Yeah.
It's just going to whatever.
Yeah, that's not consistent.
So the paint dab is not. Don't ignore that. Okay.
Correct.
Now he said that there's 2 machined radial grooves. Okay.
I think I have a good idea of what he's talking about. I believe that the sprockets for the cam run in the center. Okay, of the dual overhead cam. 2 sprockets in the center. He's talking about sprockets are spinning around and they have like opposing indications, and he's trying to line those up with either the cylinder head, like a horizontal mate,
right,
or it says that's the only thing I can think of, because once you pop the valve cover off, there's not much else to line it up to. So you're lining it up usually the horizontal or that they're, regardless, I think he's just trying to say, is this method better than this method?
Right. Okay. Well, here's what the service manual is trying to do. And I just happen to have a cam here.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
It's a pretty big one, right? They are trying to get you on the bottom of the eccentric. Okay. Yeah. That's it. So if I were to take a feeler gauge anywhere from here to here, you're going to get the same result.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be taking it when it's starting to depress the valve. Or
right, like on the lift part. Which is, yeah.
So, I mean, I would recheck your procedure and rotate it to which it's on the base circle of the eccentric.
Yeah.
And then check your clearance.
Because this is very familiar with the 750 you did. That was a single overhead cam, Mike, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you look at the valve adjustment stuff?
Yeah. So it's covered. So the procedure there is you run the crank to TDC on 1 and 4, and then 2 and 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the camshaft will have a slot that is supposed to be parallel with the head.
Yeah.
And then your crank is at TDC and your cam is correct on the chain. So your cam timing is correct.
Right.
And then you can go adjust your valves.
Right. But so, if you look at the manual, when it's saying how to or where to adjust them, you'll notice that it's not like put the cylinder 1 at top dead center compression, do exhaust 1, do exhaust for that cylinder and intake for that cylinder, then rotate to cylinder 2 top dead center. No, it's like rotate it to this point and then adjust exhaust, intake, exhaust.
Yeah.
And then it flips it. So I think that's kind of what he's dealing with, where it's like they say to rotate to a certain degree and then adjust exhaust, blah, 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 blah. And then what he's trying to do is say, okay, I'm going to bring the cylinder up to top dead center compression, and I'm just going to check intake and exhaust, because at top dead center compression, valves are closed fully. No matter what position the cam is in, top dead center compression, both valves are closed fully. And then because they have to be.
Right.
Now, what he could have done is done a, because there's 2 times when the piston's up. So you have exhaust where that's just about to close.
Yeah.
Because the piston can't hit the exhaust valve, but it has to push the gases out. So there's like a little period where the valve's closed. He could have done that wrong.
So he could have been on the exhaust stroke, is what you're saying.
He could have been. No, yeah, he could have been. It sounds like he still got within some type of spec, because he was talking about like 15,000s or something like that. Like he's within something. But part, like, if it, when all fails, follow the manual. I would say that if a bike was on my bench, I would honestly, the easiest way to do valve adjustments, bring that thing up to top dead center compression. Put your finger on the spark plug hole, go until you hear a poof, and then release your finger and then raise it all the way up and watch it as it comes all the way up to the top. Boom. No matter what, it's going to be within spec. But the variations that you can deal with is when there's a different load on the cams when it comes to the chain, right? Because, you know, the chain gets tighter at some points and looser at some points, especially on the old ones.
And sometimes when you rotate it and you're getting to a certain point, it may want to rotate 20 more degrees.
Exactly.
Because of another cylinder in a different position.
Bingo.
Has some force on it.
But Chris, if you're still within spec and you're not out of spec, do what you want, man. I mean, yes, you can adjust whatever you want. You can go on the low end or the top end of that spec. It's going to be within spec. Sometimes it's not worth dealing with. You know, if you're on the low end of one and the high end of another, is it really worth it? Because they're both within spec. If you are meticulous about your valve adjustments and you're like, I want them all to be freaking a ball hair off from each other, you know what I mean? Then do whatever you want. But if they're in spec, they're in spec. Move on. Don't overthink it. It's not a cam thing. Don't pull the cam out and do a V block. I mean, the bike's running fine.
Yeah,
you know?
don't do that. I've never found a cam out of spec, or I've never V blocked a cam in my life.
Right.
I mean, no. So, I mean,
never been a problem.
Yeah. All right. That one was confusing.
It was confusing. It was confusing. But now that we are on to question number 3.
Yes, 3.
2, 3. And this is for a 1981 CB900 custom.
Okay. You read this. I'm grabbing a beer.
Do it. My name is Anthony. I have a 900C. I've changed the carbs to 36 VM style Mikuni 2-into-1. So this is a little bit confusing because this is an inline 4 carb set. Change the carbs from 36 VM Mikuni to 2-into-1. So no idea what that means. No idea. So
I've seen a lot of people with CB750s do that. Like I think Murray's does that. So basically you're merging one carb to 2 intake ports. So it's a 2 carb setup feeding 4 cylinders.
Okay. But then it says 36 VM Mikuni 2-to-1. So is that what you're describing? Just 2
yeah. So
got it. All right.
2 carburetors feeding 4 cylinders.
Got it. I've seen that. Okay. Change the exhaust to 4-into-2. A lot of numbers here. Dynatech DDK 1-5C ignition. She runs like a beast, even with 105 PSI compression on cylinder 2 and 150 PSI on all the other cylinders. So he's pretty much almost a dead cylinder. Yet I'd still like to push the bike further, but I'm struggling to find resources or information I need to do this. I've looked for info on the shaft drive to sprocket conversion with no luck. I understand this would involve changing out the 10-speed tranny, which it does have a low and a high, with some frame modifications. That sounds like a nightmare. But what about engine modifications or different gear ratios? Different pistons, longer stroke, different cams, ECT. Would love to make this bike over the top. I fear the biggest problem will be finding the parts to actually making this happen. And you answered all your own questions. That would be difficult.
Yeah.
All the frame modifications, dude, all that stuff to me is a nightmare. That'd be a nightmare to solve. Going through gear ratios for the trans would be a nightmare to solve.
Yeah, dude. I guess how far is he wanting to push this bike?
Yeah.
And just be real, and maybe this isn't the bike to modify.
Right.
Sell it and get something different that's easier to
Yeah.
meet your goals.
Buy a CBX, get a CB1100. You know, the old Hurricanes. That's a faster bike. Buy a CBR 1000. Regardless, to answer his question, Matt, to provide power to the motor, to give it more HPs, what do you got to do?
Air in, air out.
There you go. So in order to do that, on a lot of the Honda heads, what people will do on any bike, four-wheelers, dirt bikes, doesn't matter. Get the head worked on. Open up the exhaust out. Okay, if we're talking HPs and all that stuff, get the head Porsche. Get the head ported. You know, if you want to really do this, then do it. Get the exhaust blown out of the head so there's more flow out of the head, because Hondas have a tendency of really tuning the bikes back with the head porting. It's what I've learned from a really old guy who used to race flat tracks. He used to race the old MTs and the old XLs, back in the XLs. And he said, just open up the exhaust. Just open it up, and it will breathe a lot better. So you can do some head work. I mean, bigger piston. Find someone who can cut those cylinders. And then get custom-made wide scope pistons or custom-made pistons. Get custom-made rings and go down that whole route. I mean, you can do whatever you want with enough money.
Sure.
You know. But then no, like there's nothing that he's like, oh, I'll just swap this over onto it. Very unlikely, especially for that bike. I think they made it for like 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, find out what's going on with that one cylinder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously, okay, so you've done the compression test. It's low. Earlier, we mentioned a leak down test. I got a video on that.
Yeah.
So that'll tell you, a leak down test will tell you if it's the intake valve, exhaust valve, or the rings. And then you can kind of decide what you want to do. If it's a valve issue, maybe you can just pull the head and do what Cody just mentioned, you know, do a nice valve job, port polish, and maybe that'll give you the power expectations that you want.
It'll help.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll help. But I don't know if 2 into 1, how much he's restricted it. I mean, if it's running like a beast, then the carb is giving what the cylinder wants, you know, without hesitation. I'm not sure how responsive it is. I'd like to ride it, you know, to be able to tell that. But, I mean, people do the same thing with, like, the old GL 1000s. They'll put, like, the Volkswagen carbs on them. Have you seen that? They take 4 carbs, and they toss, like, a big Volkswagen carb.
Just one big carb?
Just one, dude. It's like a whole kit. So they throw one big whopping carb on there. And, I mean, it runs. I mean, it runs. It sounds okay.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why the GL 1500 Valkyrie had 6 carbs and the GL 1500 Gullwing had 2. You know, you get 2 different responses from 2 different bikes.
Yeah.
Valkyrie hauls ass. 1500 hauls ass. You know, just 2 different types.
Yeah.
So,
gotcha.
Yeah, that's a long path he's willing to take.
Yeah, it's an expensive one too. So, I mean, okay. Next question is from, it's about a 79 Honda Matic CM400.
They made a lot of these. They made a lot of different twins. Honda blew up 78, 79, and 80 up to like 83 with 400s and 450s. So,
and this is the automatic trans, right? Well, yeah, I just said that.
Yep.
I've never had to work on one or ridden one, to be honest. So
they're cute.
So that's auto clutch, right? Still has gears.
Yeah, it's got a low and a high.
Okay.
So they don't feel much different, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it's got a low and a high. So you shift it in, and it works like an automatic, dude. I mean, it's
no kidding.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
idles and won't go anywhere.
So it has no gears.
It has a torque converter. It has a legit torque converter on the side, and all the gears. I mean, you can't feel the gears.
Oh, okay. All right. First time ever gas in the oil was noticeable when I was changing the oil because the bike was running fine for the most part. So this happened, I'm guessing, after the choke cable got totally seized and stopped pushing or pulling, just frozen solid. What else beside a stuck choke cable can let extra gas into carbs? And I also need to change and have the parts to change the 41-year-old accelerator pumps on both carbs. as of now, being summer and warm, the bike fires every time and runs and rides, but the start of pulling away, there's no also a lag in the acceleration until you crack the throttle a bit more, then it takes off like it should. But the gas and the oil is the biggest thing. And yes, I had fuel in the airbox just a bit and I drained it. Thanks, Mike from upstate New York. Okay, so to answer his question,
This is fairly simple.
Float valve.
Yeah.
Needle and seat.
Yep.
They get dirty or worn and it cannot stop fuel flow. The level of fuel rises and it has nowhere to go but inside the engine.
Yep.
So in your oil.
Or in the airbox.
Or in the airbox. And this is on a carb that does not have a overflow. And this is a 79. I'm not sure if it does or not. But
I don't think it does.
I mean, obviously, if it doesn't, because it's getting in oil and airbox.
Right.
I mean, like, because, okay, older bikes had overflows because the EPA didn't really give two shits about you pissing gas all over the floor.
Right.
On the
when
road.
You put it on the side stand.
Yeah. But now, all of a sudden, like, whoa. You can't be dumping gas all over the place.
Right.
Send it to your engine or airbox instead. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not our problem.
Right.
So
something that you have to pay for. No, seriously. I mean, this guy sounds like he needs a total carb overhaul because if you're lagging off of idle, I mean, all these things, it's full circle carb related. Accelerator pumps, talking about getting new ones. You probably need new ones. You probably need new air cut valves. You probably need new float seats, float needle valves, all that stuff. You need a full carb rebuild.
Yep.
You know? And I actually provide this video inside the inner circle, and you can buy the video and watch it and clean your carbs. I'm pretty sure I use either a CB or CM 400 or a 450. I mean, it's the exact same carbs.
Nice. So you got him covered.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, and then he's got a seized choke cable, so it's an enrichener style.
It is not.
Okay, so it's a choke blade, old school.
Yeah, I'm like 80% sure.
Where'd I put those carbs?
I'm trying to remember. I'm almost positive it is a blade style.
Okay.
Choke.
All right.
And that's not why your gas is flooding your motor.
Right. Well, I was just saying, hey, if all of a sudden you got a choke plunger that went up and seized somewhere, you don't know what's going on underneath that choke pad or whatever. Yeah. So just wanted to mention it. But
either or, that's not the cause of the float
right.
The fuel issue. It's just another knock on the list of saying you need to rebuild your carbs completely.
Yeah. So rebuild the carbs, man.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a good runner. You know,
easy.
Yep.
All right, we are over time. But we're gonna bang this last question out, okay? For the people, Matt. We're doing it for the people. It is super late. So, question number 5. Maybe.
Yep, you're right.
Hey guys, liking the show. I have a 91 XT350 Yamaha. When I'm giving it gas, going almost up to full speed, it will miss a beat, like it cuts out or something. It feels like it just misses one cycle, meaning like in the 4-stroke process. Do you have any clue with what this might be? Thanks, Ron. I'm thinking coil. Something ignition.
It's funny you mentioned that because my brother was here and he has an XR70, a newer one, but whoever had it before him bought an aftermarket coil for one that didn't need to be replaced. So it was like some Chinese coil. Okay. And he was here and the carb was dirty. We cleaned the carb and then he's like, oh, let me rev it out because that's where my issue was. So he's, flying down the street. And I'm like, dude, that's not carb related. All of a sudden you get
nothing.
No, you and it's just like missing,
Yeah.
So I'm like, wait, let me see that. Now, obviously, I see this orange stupid spark plug.
I have the same one in the shop.
Yeah. So
it's my test coil.
Yeah. So I jiggle the connectors and it's loose. So all I did is I popped it off I grabbed some pliers and I just pinched it a little and
Yep.
put it back on, and it was nice and tight.
Yep.
And
Oh, like on like on the female terminals or
yeah, on the
whatever.
fast on connectors,
Yep.
the spade, and it ran fine. So it's just a loose connection.
Yeah.
So something as simple as that can be your problem, maybe.
Yeah. Look and see how the coil is grounded. Speaking of aftermarket coils, I just had a VT750. Poor guy let his daughter's boyfriend trying to fix a bike that's set for 6 years. This guy had more aftermarket electrical parts trying to fix it. He had aftermarket coils, aftermarket wires, aftermarket. He had the wrong plugs. He cleaned the carbs. He has aftermarket fuel pump. I ran the bike and brand new coil was bad. Brand new aftermarket coil. So he had to buy a factory coil. I swapped the new one on. Boom. Problem solved. It sounds like it could be a coil problem. I mean, most of the time when you're dealing with like higher RPM stuff, it's ignition. To me, that's not always true, but it's what my brain kind of floats towards. Spark plug, coil, bad grounding of the coil, maybe even CDI. Very rarely, guys, very rarely do CDIs go bad, but they do. It's like one of those cases like, oh, I remember that one time, when that CDI went bad, but very rarely. Usually it's something to do with coil. So you can try to find a factory one. I just don't think it's carb related.
If I've had a CDI fail, and you know how it failed? Zero spark.
Okay,
So I mean,
like no go.
Yeah. So I had one guy come in here, and his bike was running fine, and he decided to do an aftermarket coil, and he bought the wrong ohms. So I think this was a 400 or something. It was like 1 point in the 1 to 2 range ohms, and then he bought a 5 ohm or something, and then it started breaking up so bad, because that is essentially a less hotter spark.
For sure. Absolutely.
So he's riding it, and it's like it's not igniting the fuel.
Yeah.
And he brings it by. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, I put a new coil on. I'm like, why? I'm like, bring me the old coil back. And he had all these metal brackets to adapt this thing on here, and it was just like this thing. And we just put the old one back on. I'm like, dude, you messed with something that didn't need to be messed with.
Let me undo what you did.
Yeah. He's like, oh man, I feel so stupid. I'm like, don't.
Yeah.
It's fixed. Hey, I'm guilty of buying all kinds of stuff in the back of magazines when I was a teenager, but I don't anymore. So
yeah. Well, Matt, we have come to the end.
Yes.
Of the Broken Moto Show.
That's right.
And again, you guys should check out Matt's channel, How to Motorcycle Repair. We'll put any links that we described in the description below, as well as mine. Matt, anything to plug? Anything you got going on?
No.
You got some fresh videos coming out on the motor build you're doing right now.
Yeah. I am going to
cranking out videos.
Yeah, so I got some more that are coming out.
Sweet.
You can see it's all torn down.
Yeah.
Stuff is at the machine shop.
Ooh.
Time to open up the wallet.
Very cool.
Some of these.
Yeah, very cool. You guys got to check out that. What is that going on? It's pretty cool. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. I hope people don't hate me for it, but I'm going to do it.
It's your life, bro. Cool. I got brand new shirts that just dropped last week. Motorcycle MD. They're like, I'm calling them the Tune Design. They're handmade, hand drawn. They are handmade because they're hand printed. Yeah, hand drawn, designed from a local guy of mine. He does amazing craft work, and you can support me. You can support him at the same time, because obviously I'm paying him to do this. So it's not just all about Motorcycle MD. It's about supporting the local companies as well. That's what I try to look forward to doing. And you can check me out on Instagram /the Motorcycle MD. I post stuff up there all the time. And that's all we got. Every Tuesday, a new video comes out. How do they get a hold of us, Matt? One more time.
askbrokenmoto@gmail.com.
Zing.
And I just signed up for your email list. Finally.
Oh, cool.
Because I don't know, why not, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, you give out a cool cheat sheet. So that's
Thank you.
awesome. So
Thank you.
if you guys don't have that, I would definitely check that out. And then you start getting emails from this guy and you just share helpful tips. So
Yeah, cool,
Yeah.
man. Thank you. Thank you.
I would definitely sign up for that if you haven't already.
Sweet. Well, that's it, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Later.
Take it easy. Thank you.